Hold on, vibes are weird on this one. I'm going to do it again.
Okay.
All right, before we start the episode, we have some people that we want... Why is this all of a sudden very hard?
We have some new patrons. We want to say your names.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you. I'm like, why is this so hard to say all of a sudden?
We want to give you credit where credit's due. Thank you for signing up with us. You really make the content matter. You make the quality matter. And like us being here, not shouting into the void is what really matters. You're actually listening. Your ears are beautiful. Sorry, I got
You know what? Calling someone's ears beautiful, I think that's the kind of compliment I can stand for.
Unless you're like a ear...
Okay, we gotta stop going down this road. All right.
Which I'm not,
of course. Absolutely not. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
No, for real though. We do want to thank some folks, especially we got some new patrons. So I want to, first we're going to thank some of the new folks in the House of Stone. So I want to thank Tabitha King.
Oh, Laurel Blackthorn. That's a baller name.
That is.
Yeah.
Terry Berry.
Sarah Maxwell. Oh, I know Sarah Maxwell.
Oh, hell yeah.
Not personally, just I've seen your name around.
Yeah. And Mola Mola Studios. So those are the new members of the House of Stone. Welcome. You're fantastic. We would also like to welcome Kayla to the House of Flame.
I'm so sorry, Kayla. Yeah, I'm like, because, you know, like, Tabitha King, Laurel Blacksmith. Kayla.
We like you, Kayla. You're awesome. And I very much look forward to sending you more letters in the mail as part of your due as a member of the House of Flame. I'm going to more quickly read out our other patrons because the names I'm about to read are folks who have, well, y'all have been with me basically since the beginning, and you guys have been the bricks that have formed the walls of this proverbial podcast house. Because
some might call it a cornerstone.
Cornerstone, that's the word I'm looking for. I can vocabulary. All right, so in the House of Earth, I want to thank Akiyaki, Alexander Eagleson, Ali Silem, Andrew Stacchetti, Juliet Kurth, and Rachel. And in the House of Stone, do you want to read out the House of Stone names?
No!
Please!
All right. Brianna Rains, Ceramic Coven, Krisha Dolan, Jane Dominguez, Melissa Russell?
Yes.
And Tinkery?
Tinkery! And then, in the House of Flame, we want to thank Bertie Tam, Jade Smith, Amber Costley, Celeste Gantz, Cheryl Eisenhower, Cynthia Johnson, Dirty Panda Ceramics, Francie Dillon, that's my mom, Julie Sugidono, Katie Grant, Leah Harvell, Natalie Curry, Pokela, and Val Langlois. And I also want to thank our past Patreon members because even if you are no longer a member, you have been a part of helping make this podcast possible, and we want to thank you so much.
True, very true.
This is The Mud Peddlers, a podcast where two nerdy ceramic artists share the behind the scenes of their worlds of clay. We are your hosts, Lindsey M Dillon.
And I am Donte of Earth Nation.
This week on The Mud Peddlers, we are essentially talking about how to put your experience in ceramics onto your resume.
How to lie.
Well, it's not lying. That's the thing. You don't lie on resumes.
I mean...
You don't say, okay, for all of us folks who watched Friends back in the day, you don't want to pull a Joey where you say that you are trained in classical dancing and then you show them the shuffle. Like, you just don't.
No, that's what happens on resumes though. People are like, I have skills and teamwork dynamics, but really you'd be playing D&D. Like,
but that's the thing is that like, come on. Okay, here's the thing I'll say though.
Okay.
Resumes so I basically, for reasons that I will talk about later, I have been developing my resume.
She's trying to leave us.
I'm not trying to leave
Lindsey's trying to leave us.
I'm always here for you.
She's trying to leave. She's
Donte.
abandoning me.
Donte, I would never leave you.
I don't know, man. I don't know.
Okay, so here's the thing about resumes. Like, and again, not that I'm an expert necessarily. I've been deep dive researching this stuff.
For reasons.
Can't imagine why. And basically, I've so much realized that, like, resumes are very much their own language. So yes, even though it is, in this hypothetical situation, D&D, like, it is working in a team environment. And that's part of the reason why I wanted to talk about using ceramics on your resume, because it's one of those things that I feel like it's easier when you have a more, like, traditional job to know what those keywords are that you can rephrase to put into a resume statement. But with ceramics, it's like, okay, well, I make art.
I make dirt look shiny.
Make dirt. Yeah, I make shiny dirt.
You could drink out of it.
Yeah.
I guess.
Yeah.
I feel like resumes are, how well can you, how complicated can you make your skill set sound to sell yourself?
It is its own language in a lot of ways.
Definitely.
Like, well, I will essentially, my plan is, I've printed out, I don't know if you can hear this paper rustling.
God.
But I've printed out
no paper in front of me.
That's okay. We're here to teamwork this, and I just need paper because I can only hold so much information in my brain.
Carry me, Lindsey.
I will carry you.
Carry me. I'm heavy.
There are two sets of footsteps in the sand, and now I'm God.
I was on your back. I'm like twice your weight, and I'm like, I was on your back the whole time.
Yeah, absolutely. I don't think I could carry you at all. I think you could sit on me maybe, and then I would not die.
No, you're getting the weird fancy
Yeah, you're
stuff
right.
going.
You're right. That is a weird thing. Let's just backtrack that.
You want me to wear fishnets next?
No. You can do. I mean, you do that on your own time, but
I guess
I think I'm okay.
You gotta fish somehow.
Yeah. Anyway. So if you can hear this paper rustling, essentially I have printed out one of the few resumes that I've written in the last month. Because the other thing is I've written essentially different resumes to meet different requirements. And I thought I would go through some of the things and just kind of talk about how I essentially translated my experience in ceramics into something I could put on my resume. And, this may not necessarily, or you may not think that it is necessary in your whatever field you're trying to get into or whatever field you're already in. But, it's so funny. I'm not used to talking this long by myself because it's been a while since I've mainlined the episode. I usually
yes and you or interrupt you.
Yeah, it's true. It's actually it's a little weird. But it's okay.
Just riff.
Yeah, I'm gonna go for it.
I think too fast for my own good. So when I speak, I've already thought about what I'm speaking about after I've spoken it.
Okay.
You do the opposite.
Yeah.
You think and then you speak.
And then I speak. Yeah.
Which is why you're so slow at speaking.
I would like to say that I think I have excellent communication skills.
You do, but
Thank you.
But you have processing power to your speech.
Yes.
I don't.
Yeah.
That just comes out,
I love it. Actually, low key, I have also been putting this podcast on my resume because when you think about hey, it's collaboration, it is effective problem solving.
Community engagement.
It's community engagement. I know it sounds, there's definitely an element to this that may sound a little tongue-in-cheek, but again, recognizing that resume writing really is its own language. And again, I'm not an expert in this, but this is just how I've been able to, in researching modern resume writing techniques, this is how I have filtered my experiences into language that can fit on a resume. So the two ones that have been the most helpful for me that I have basically put at the top of my resume is I've got a bullet point and then I created and operate a ceramic arts business, designing, producing, promoting, and distributing handmade mugs, serveware, and sculpture. So the main, again, keywords that I'm using there are designing, producing, promoting, and distributing. So within that, part of the reason that's the first thing that I put up on my resume is that it shows... What's that?
Distributing is crazy.
I know. I felt a little weird about putting that one on at first, but because it's not like I'm distributing in the sense of it's not like I'm, an employee of Pepsi and I'm distributing Pepsi cans, but I am responsible for getting my mugs from my studio to wherever they're going. And whether that's bringing them to a convention, whether that's dropping them off at a local store where I'm doing, consignment or wholesale with them, or just shipping them, all of that, at least from what I researched in modern definitions of distributing in business culture, I'm okay, I think that fits. But with some of the other words that I've used, designing, even though that may not be designing with a particular software, it's not necessarily Illustrator, I use visual culture to create something, essentially. And that does come along with some... It
counts as designing.
Yeah, it counts as...
Absolutely. Just because you're not using, little pieces of rocks that can think for us, microchips. It counts as designing.
Yeah.
Because it's not digital.
And ironically, for me, it actually,
You are a good designer.
I do use Photoshop like that. Like, so I do have experience with that particular like software, but even if the job you're trying to look for does not specifically have to do with design, it does show an ability to think creatively, which it's one of the things that is required in a lot of jobs, or at least from like what I'm seeing on various things.
What was the one you said before? Where like
distributing?
Distributing is crazy.
Tell me.
On the most positive note I can think of. Because think about it. You technically distribute your own designed work.
Yeah.
And that fits on a resume. And that's not a lie.
Yeah.
But like you know what I mean? Like,
exactly. That's the thing. Is that it's so about finding the right words.
Yeah.
Like,
most of the time I make a resume, I'm like, how am I making the regular crap I do look fancier than it is?
Yeah.
Right? And I have a question I'll save for later, I suppose. But
okay.
like the fact that like distribution is literally what we do with our own artwork, that we have experience in distribution. Not only that, the amount of people that have no idea how to like print out a shipping label and distribute something safely to the home of another person is a valuable skill that companies probably want that an average person doesn't have.
Yes.
You're blowing my mind right now, Lindsey.
I'm so glad.
I'm so more valuable than I thought.
Because what that also shows, like, again, okay, let's take the example of, like, printing out a shipping label.
Okay.
Like, what skills are involved with that? Like, that involves attention to detail. It involves handling sensitive information. It involves, like, you know, like, again, this is more specific to, like, if you're looking for, you know, like, mailroom management or some other things like that. But it's, like, even just those two things of being able to handle sensitive information and like have attention to detail to make sure that, for instance, like the right mug is going into the right box.
100%.
The right, you know, like if you do thank you notes, making sure the thank you note is in the right box, making sure the printed label is in the correct, you know, or is on the correct box so you don't send things to the wrong person. Those sound all like basic things to us. But realistically, but those are skills that you can exemplify on your resume in what you've done as a ceramic artist.
It's a work skill. It's look at it this way, right? And I know I'm preaching to the choir here, but like if you were working as like a clerk or a counter or like receptionist or whatever they are at like USPS, they would be trying to teach you these skills.
Yeah.
That you probably already have going into the business.
Yeah, and sure, there's going to be some other things like, you know, specific machinery or things like that. But the point is, like, you have experience with these things already. Yeah. And that's, like, I feel like another thing, too, is that has, or another, like, skill that has those broad-reaching implications, too, is, like, promoting. Because, again, like, designing, producing, promoting, and distributing. With promoting, that talks about a number of different skills. That covers marketing, which can be like online marketing, which includes social media, which includes email, newsletters. It includes content creation. Like, okay, I know how to utilize different kinds of software to create engaging content. Yeah. You know? Yeah. And for promoting, like, that also involves communication skills, because if you are like let's say, for instance, I have a shop update coming up. Promoting includes, obviously, the social media aspect of it. And that also means that I have to have attention to detail, because I have to make sure that the information that I put on the site has all the correct information, and that the information on my social media posting also matches the information that I put on my email newsletter. That also requires writing the content for the email
and
newsletter.
The product itself.
Yeah, this is not even talking about the product itself, but like all of these different things involved with promoting is like, it's communication skills, it's software knowledge, it's like an awareness of.
I look real good to a company right now.
You do though.
I look kind of sexy on paper. I don't know about real life, but I look a little attractive on paper.
I know. I'm telling you. There's like all these things that like when I first sat down to do this, it took me probably 2 weeks, not of consistent work, but of like working like generally on developing a resume to get my first resume done. Because when you think about all the different things that we do as artists, it is really hard to actually account for all that. Like essentially how I started is I sat down and I wrote out on, Google Docs. I wrote out like a page of just listing all the different things I did. I got through that page without even thinking to mention social media marketing.
Right, and it's insane how much we do for ourselves.
That's a huge part of it. Yeah.
That are just jobs for other people.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
How do you mean?
Well, like, so like the companies that I mess with sometimes.
Yeah.
Like come up with a random clay company, right? They usually have like a social media person.
Yeah.
But I'm also a social media person for myself.
Yes.
Does that make sense?
Yes.
So like the skills that we have, especially as artists who represent ourselves in an internet space, is like a whole person's job.
Yes. Yes. It's that whole kind of idea of like, as a business owner, which is essentially what being a ceramic artist is. Yeah. Like I call it like a micro business on my resume just because
unfortunately
it's a little bit, well, I mean, micro is not a pejorative term. It's just more specific.
No, I mean like I would like to just sell my work without being like labeled business.
Oh,
you know what I mean? Like I don't know. I have a problem with like, I don't think I have my in order enough to call myself a business. Like I'm not Walmart because I'm selling my pottery.
Right.
But there's no other word to describe it, you know?
Yeah. And it is, like, I understand that there's the cultural association with, like, how you identify as, like, an artist versus a business versus whatever else.
Yeah.
But, yes, I like, when you think about what we're doing at its core, we're making a product.
Yeah, we're making a product and we're making finances off the product. Like,
yeah, and for you, that doesn't even necessarily have to mean just ceramics. Like, you also create, educational videos. That is also a product.
That's true.
Like, those are all different things. But to that point, that one of the aspects that we do as a job would be somebody else's entire ass job.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah. That also, it leads to, like, another thing you can say is that, like, on a resume, is that you have a capacity to multitask and manage a variety of tasks with competing timelines, which is an important thing to know how to do because...
I don't like that you're making it make sense.
I'm so glad.
I'm over here shaking my head.
I'm so glad that I'm converting you to this.
I hate it.
Because I mean, honestly, like, essentially, so you have this, like, multitasking ability, managing different timelines. You also have a demonstrated capacity to learn new information and new skills. Because again, when you start out as a ceramic business person, you don't necessarily start out as one. Like, you start out
off as like I don't want to say an artist, but
you start out like messing around on the wheel with like a lump of clay. Like, assuming you do like pottery as opposed to ceramic sculpture. But I mean, again, we all start out in a small arena. And then, of course, not everyone goes to a larger, actually considering themselves like a business. But, like, even if you consider yourself a hobby potter or a hobby ceramic artist, but you still sell your work, like, these are things that these are demonstrable skills that you can put on your resume. But, like, again, because everyone starts out small and then you grow, and then as you grow, you have to learn all these different things. And then as you're learning all these different skills, you are also having to maintain all those other skills. Like, you're having to balance social media management, website development, marketing, producing, distributing, designing, and also making, like, the producing is like actually making the work in addition to all those other elements. So essentially the multitasking and the capacity to learn new information are all good things that you can put on your resume, like in some other words. The second main kind of bullet point that I put on my resume as kind of like an umbrella term is, so we've got created and operated a ceramic arts business, designing, producing, promoting, and distributing handmade mugs, serveware, and sculptures. The second bullet point I have is effectively perform a broad range of interdisciplinary activities utilizing strong interpersonal, organizational, clerical, analytical, evaluative, and creative skills to maintain a micro business.
That's too much. Dude,
honestly though,
that's too much.
That list.
That's a big list.
That is a condensed list. Again, this honestly was the most concise umbrella statement that I could come up with to concisely cover all of the different things that you do as a ceramic artist. Because think about it.
My lord.
Interpersonal communication skills involves, for instance, what we're doing right now. Yeah. It involves, do you write things on social media? Do you communicate with your audience? Yeah. Do you respond to messages? Do you respond to comments? Do you have a newsletter that you put out? All of those things are interpersonal. Do you communicate with people at tables? Mm-hmm. Yeah. Like, do you communicate with potential clients? Do you communicate with potential sponsors? All of those things.
We can't just say communication Like,
no, but it is though. It is. Interpersonal communication
doesn't mean I'm good at it.
It's a broad umbrella. Well, that's the point. Is in a resume, you're talking about how you're like, and again,
I communicate with my daughter. Doesn't mean I'm good at communication. Like, she's 2.
Well, the thing is, you are able to communicate to a degree that you have sponsorships, you have a following.
Yeah, I gotta tell them to back.
And again, of course,
be like, don't run over me.
But of course, the point of a resume is to highlight those aspects of yourself. Yeah. And yes, as I was writing this, 100% I felt imposter syndrome. I was like, this looks too good to be me.
I think that's a good use of the... I don't even know if that's like too good to be you, because you're really good at all those things.
Well, see, that's the thing. Is like, I look at you and I'm like, you're good at all of those things. Like, we have different styles, for instance, of communication. But I am also able to recognize that, like, with myself, that, like, yes, because I'm not used to laying out my skills in this language style, it is weird to look at this and be like, oh, wow, like, I really do all of these things.
It
like,
is
and it's not, it's like you may feel imposter syndrome as you're writing these things down, but essentially what you're doing is finding words to describe things you've already done. So you've already done them.
My experience with resumes so far, because I used to have to go through like a hiring process with certain people, is that they would put language like this on a resume, and then I would look at them and be like, what do you really do? You know, like, this sounds fancy. This sounds like you're used to communicating at a high level with like multiple people. But like, are you a manager at a gas station and you told people what to do? And because of that, you were playing on your phone for 6 of the 8-hour days. You know what I mean? Like I feel like a lot of this language is meant to make things look better than they actually are. And the D&D example I gave you earlier is I don't know if it's a good one, but I think it's like, can you say you have good communication skills just because you call your mom once a week? You know, like, you're communicating with her.
Well, sure. Yeah, no,
I don't want to blow it out of proportion.
I understand that, like, you are doing the mental exercise of taking a statement to its logical conclusion.
Yeah.
However, I will say that, like, I think that's part of the balance within a resume is that you want to find, like, first of all, you have to recognize that you are communicating in business English.
Absolutely.
That is its own, as I've said before, that's its own language.
Absolutely.
So yes, how you would normally, it's like code switching. It
sure is.
Yes.
It sure is.
But that's how you kind of communicate.
Business is its own race. I mean, culture.
Yes.
I mean.
But at the same time, like, I think that's part of the thing with writing an effective resume is, like, writing in business English, but also being specific. So, like, for instance, these are the top 2 things that are on my resume, but I do go into more specifics later on. Right. So and again, like, I'm very lucky to have the opportunity to meet with other people who are, like, gonna be helping me refine my resume. So admittedly, I have not had anyone else look at this resume yet. I am relying on what I've gleaned from the research that I've done on how to write these.
You've done a great job.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
I can tell you've done a great job because that's more words than I'm willing to read.
That's fair.
So it must be better than my reading level. Therefore, you've done a great job.
Oh my God. But later on, I do get more specific with those details. So it's like, yeah, you don't want to just create, like, a keyword salad.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, no, I don't want. Yeah, you don't want to do that. But like, I think you're right when you said I'm taking it to its logical conclusion. But I think what I'm constantly worried about, and this is definitely a mindset that I kind of, like, exude whenever I come to things like this, is I'm always worried about people taking language like this and abusing the system to a certain degree. You know what I mean? Like, oh, because I know how to speak in a certain way, I can make my value higher than what it actually is. Does that make sense?
Yes.
And that's constantly what I'm worried about. So whenever I see, like, business language, my brain always goes to, like, they're kind of trying to game you. You know what I mean? Like, business language is people trying to sell you themselves and use certain language to make themselves seem better than they are. My question is, if you were trying to get a job position with me and I was here and I was, like, the hiree, would I pick this paper up and look at all these keywords, and how many people do you think go, you know how to speak business, but are you actually useful? You know what I mean? Like, as opposed to somebody who's going to hire you and go, wow, you know all these skills. Wow, that's insane. No one's picked you up yet. Like, how believable is business language? And do you think the business people who speak this language understand that this is just mostly bull?
Well, okay, first of all, I would dispute your assertion that it's mostly bullshit because, again, the core of what I'm communicating is true. Like, I know how to do all these things.
Yeah.
But I'm just speaking in a different style.
Okay.
I'm instead of using like colloquial language, like how you and I talk to each other most of the time.
Yeah, we talk a lot contextually.
Yeah. But so instead of communicating that way, like, I'm communicating in this other language.
Very exact.
Yeah. So, but at the same time,
but
like,
honest?
yeah, yes.
Very exact, but honest?
Yes.
Okay, all right.
So, I would say that, like, how do I say? Like, I hear what you're saying about the concern of seeming like you're...
Baptize me, Lindsey.
No.
Fucking, come on.
Hey, I'm working on it.
Dip me in the waters of business.
A
little money sign on my forehead.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. No, like, okay, so I hear what you're saying about the concern of people abusing the system, and sure, I'm
sure there's people out there who do it.
Yeah, I'm sure there are people out there that do it. I will say that I think that's part of the reason why getting a job is not just the resume part. Like, there's usually a separate application. Sometimes there's a cover letter. There's the interview. Like, there's a lot of different guardrails that people put up to see if a person just knows how to speak business language, but they don't actually have useful skills.
Right.
Or if they have both the business language communication skills and the other skills that would make them a good candidate for the position.
I think I'm on the other side of that, where I'm not very good at talking business language, but like if a company was like, can you develop us a line of glazes? I'd be like, yeah, just give me the materials and leave me alone in a room for 2 months and I'll, you know what I mean?
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
But I wouldn't be able to be like, I'm able to chemically blah, 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 blah. Like, I couldn't tell you that on a resume.
Yeah.
I would just do it.
Yeah. And that's the tricky part about learning, and like why I want to do this episode is because I think a lot of people, you know, probably feel the same way, that it's like we all have been, I mean, especially if you've been in ceramics for a while, it's like, you know how to do a bunch of these things, but if you were to, let's say you didn't even want to use this language like for a resume, if you wanted to, say, apply for a grant or apply for a sponsorship, you know, being able to utilize this kind of specific language to communicate what you do, yes, it's code switching, and yes, and like not that necessarily that's a, I think you could debate whether that's a good or a bad thing, but either way, this is how, like, at least for the jobs that...
This is how it goes.
Yeah, at least for some jobs. Not for all. I mean, because again, you got your job at Sun City a completely different way.
Yeah.
But...
I showed up and I just flexed and they were like, oh.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Well, I mean, you had other stuff that you could show them, but you didn't need to use this language. But all of these different things, like, okay, like going through like interpersonal skills. Like we've talked a little bit about what all those different things can involve. Next keyword that I use, the next word that I use is organizational. That can cover another broad range of things. It can go to, you know, how well do you keep your glaze notes on Glazy? You know, are you organized about the way that you execute your...
Oh my God.
Right?
Some people just put them up there with no gravity, no milliliters of water, no cone temperature. I look at the kiln schedule part and it's just empty. Mm-hmm. Oh my, there's no some monsters put the glaze up there. No pictures.
Oh, no pictures.
Dude, why? How am I gonna believe you? How am I gonna believe you? Take it off.
Yeah. See?
You expect me to test it for you and put pictures up there? Just out of here.
Exactly.
I'm so mad about that.
I know.
You triggered me.
I'm sorry.
It's not your fault.
I didn't mean to.
There was no trigger warning.
Yeah. But like really, that is an aspect of organization. It's like, can you do what? I mean, essentially, what you're doing is research, right? Like, can you conduct research and keep organized notes? How well do you keep your other like glaze materials organized? How well do you keep your studio supplies organized? How well do you keep your finances organized? Like, do you keep receipts? Are you in good communication with your accountant, or do you do your own accounting? And that kind of bleeds into a little bit of like the clerical skills, where it's like, like clerical, I actually looked up the specific definition of clerical because in my mind I have like a general sense of what that means, but looking it up, it's like, oh yeah, that is also a very broad category of skills. But that can also involve inputting your expenses into your expense sheet.
Absolutely.
Marking how much you earn, like keeping track of how much did you sell of this particular design versus another. Yeah. Keeping track of paperwork is a surprisingly large part, I feel like, of ceramics.
Difficult skill, actually.
Yeah, there's a lot of ways that it gets demonstrated within running your own business as a ceramic artist.
You can really tell, like, the people who've been through this gambit too versus the people who haven't. Because recently I was one of the people who hadn't, right? Like,
what do you mean?
So, well, sometimes the IRS runs up on you, like, where are your taxes at in 2020? And I'm like, I did them. And they're like, prove you did them. And you're like, I can't prove them. I threw that paperwork away. It was 4 years ago. And like,
no. Yeah, no, you're supposed to keep, like, I think at least 7 to 10 years. I mean, honestly, I'm just going to keep all my paperwork. Always keep your paperwork.
I'm going to tell you a little secret. Most people don't be keeping that paperwork. Like, don't keep that paperwork.
Yeah.
Like, even, like, the taxes, they don't keep, and, like, I got into, like, a monetary field, basically. Like, a certain class where, like, they're like, oh, yeah, it's normal for us to keep our papers in this box for a certain amount of time in file cabinets. And, like, where I come from, we just don't do that. Oh. And so I had to basically, like, learn how to do that.
Yeah.
Because once you get into a certain tax bracket, companies are like, hey, prove to us that you paid this thing. And I'm like, I just paid it, though. Don't you just know that I paid it? And like, no. Prove it. From 4 years ago. And I'm like, I don't have that anymore. 4 years. I start crying. 4 years ago. And so, of course, I got to pay more money. Anyway. Yeah, but like, you're right. That is a skill in and of itself. Because now I have like a filing cabinet in my house.
Yeah.
Labeled.
Yeah.
This year's, that year's taxes. And it's I have to have my own paper trail, which is crazy.
Yep.
Because I've always been told not to leave one of those.
That's only if you're a criminal, Donte.
I don't look. You guys know I'm fairly politically ambiguous. I do not like the government knowing what I'm doing ever.
Oh my gosh.
I don't like it.
I wouldn't say you're politically ambiguous in the sense that, like, well, that's a whole other conversation.
Maybe not socially, but like, like, I don't like the government. I don't like Uncle Sam being in my pockets that much, except for in a couple places. Like, I agree with taxes, but once I pay him, get out of my pockets. I paid him already. Leave me alone. I don't need a system checking on me unless I'm ultra rich.
But see,
get up the politicians' butts. Leave me alone.
Yeah, that's why we need good clerical skills. So that way, you know.
When you say clerical skills, I imagine like an actual cleric.
Oh my god.
Where's your taxes? And he like hits the staff down.
Oh yes, the cleric of the
spell of jail. Because you didn't pay taxes.
Yeah. The metal from, like, nearby, like, wiring fixtures, like, builds a little jail or something. Yeah.
Spell of property taxes, and pennies come raining down on you.
Oh my god!
Causes 1 HP of damage per. You're like, crap.
Oh my god, that would actually be really funny to do.
The taxes wizard?
Yeah, taxes wizard. Yes!
Somebody draw it and tag us.
Please do. Good lord. Oh my gosh. Alright, so
his clothes are made of quarters.
Oh, I love that. You can hear him coming from a mile away because he jingles.
It's just George Washington just on his, like, as his sleeves.
Love it.
There's a dollar bill.
I really want to draw this now. I wish I knew how to draw well enough
We're clay people. I can't draw.
Oh my god. I can draw well enough, but I can do designs, obviously, but... Yeah. Anyway.
My problem is not that I can't draw, because I'm sure it's, like anything, it's a skill that can be learned.
Yeah, of course.
My problem is I've put all my time for, like, a third of my life into ceramic artwork. And, like, I just don't want to pick up a whole nother skill. Even though I'm sure I can stack them. I can draw all my ceramics.
Yeah.
But, like, I just don't... I have no desire to learn another lifetime worth of skills just to, like, enhance the thing that I've already spent a lifetime on.
Well, you can always, always learn new things. My grandpa learned how to play the organ when he was 70 years old.
Hobby.
Oh my god!
Sorry.
I'm gonna have to edit that out.
I'm unhinged right now.
That's Night Peddlers vibes.
You could bleep that out.
It's okay. Yeah, I will.
I'm sorry.
Alright, so on to the next kind of main umbrella term that I have. Analytical skills. So this may sound like, again, like a word salad kind of word, but to be honest, analytical skills is, in my opinion, what we do the most on a day-to-day basis, or one of the things we do the most on a day-to-day basis, because thinking about it, like, analytical skills can go from, like, okay, I just got back from an anime convention. Mm-hmm. Let me look at my sales data. Let me see, like, okay, what sold well, what didn't sell well, how were my prices? Did I... unlike, you, Donte, lowering your prices drives me crazy that you do that.
that's the last time I'm going to do it, though. I'm not gonna do it no more. I promise.
Okay, all right. You better not.
They'll go higher from this point on.
Listeners, you better keep Donte to account on this.
It's the people at Sun City, and I know they come from a different my job, and I know they come from a different generation. But they're like, man, mugs be $40, and that's crazy. And in my brain, I'm like,
don't listen to him.
In my brain, I'm like 60 is a lot for me, and like
40 is like cheap for a handmade mug. To be honest,
40 is cheap for a handmade mug, but like if you do like, and this is a whole nother thing, but doing like 60 is an option for me only because about $10 to $12 goes to shipping. So I'm really getting like, and then packaging and whatnot.
Yeah, exactly. All those things that people don't always think about.
So you're really paying like $45 to $49 for a that's what I'm getting anyway.
Yeah.
The rest of it's going to like the shipping company.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
And taxes. And,
and taxes. Like, Uncle Sam got to get his. But at the same time, like, if I put a mug for $55 and then it's 12 back, right? That's like, you know what I mean? That's not that much. For a handmade mug.
What's great is that you are exercising analytical skills right now because you are you are seeing, okay, how much is my actual income versus like list price? Like what are the different areas? Like, so how do I have to price my work knowing that you have these other expenses in a way that will be competitive with like the market, which also takes its own set of like research and analysis, and that will also be worth your time.
And the packing tape too. I just bought new packing tape with like a little symbol on it and everything.
Yeah.
So that customers feel like it's a prettier package. They feel more,
Yeah.
It's the experience that counts too.
It is.
And it's just like $120 for that packing tape for 4 rolls of them. And Costco don't pay that much.
That's an expense.
That's an expense. So I have to put that in the cups.
And that's also like that's another aspect that everybody has to evaluate. So so analytical and evaluative skills I'm kind of putting together here actually because that like in my mind like analyzing is looking at data. Evaluating is what do you do with that data?
Okay, that's fair. That's fair.
The two together are like, all right, how do I make sure that I'm getting what I feel comfortable selling this mug at, at what price? And so the evaluating aspect is looking, okay, what is the market price? What are my cost of materials?
Right.
How much time, again, there's a 1,000 different ways that you can develop your price.
Yeah.
But it's looking at the different methods and then also looking at what the other expenses are going to be in terms of, all right, how much is getting taken out for taxes, how much is getting taken out for shipping, for packaging materials, et cetera, and then, okay, based on that information, what price will meet my needs? And that is just one area where we exercise evaluative skills.
We're not even talking supply and demand here.
Yeah, exactly.
Once you get a name in the ceramic world, then you can charge a tiny bit more for like, I guess what's the word for like, the being of being illustrious. Illustrativity? You know what I mean? Like
like essentially it's like fame.
I guess.
To some degree.
The clout charge.
The
clout charge. Yeah, but like, even then I feel, because I look at some other artists' stuff and I know they've done the math we're talking about here, but sometimes I see their mugs, like a regular mug that just has a little bit of drippy glaze go for like $90 and I'm like, damn!
Yeah, well,
you know what I mean?
Everyone has done their own.
But of course, I look at their stuff and they have like billions of subscribers, and I'm like, all right, well, that makes sense.
Yeah,
like you know what I mean.
Greater.
That's the clout fee. That's just you're charging more because you are who you are.
Yeah, and that's again one of the many different ways that people go about doing their pricing. But like, I'm trying to think what's another area that I think of in terms of analyzing and evaluating is like what I've been doing so much recently, which is like trying to create a production schedule that is going to meet like demand, because like some of the most helpful data that we can get is like, what are people buying? You know?
Absolutely.
And
blue cups.
Yeah, exactly. Blue cups, yeah.
Blue cups.
But like specifically for us, like as ceramic artists that are in like the nerd community, like we had to go through the process of figuring out like, okay, what, like I've sold at this event, how did I do? All right, I went to a farmer's market. Wow, nobody wanted to buy my $60 cups. Okay, I'm at this convention and the $60 cups are going like crazy.
Right.
So it's like,
why?
Yeah, like, and there's so many different little things that we do like this, or even like on a day-to-day basis. Like, how much time should I spend answering emails? How much time should I spend creating the next video for social media? How much time do I spend on production? Like, all of those little decisions that we make on a day-to-day process are examples of analytical and evaluative skills.
Yeah.
And I think we see the feedback, and again, for folks who may be doing a similar thing and like using this to write a resume or apply for a grant or whatever you may be using this kind of language for, it may, like, I kind of remind myself that it's like, hey, we're always still learning this. We may not feel that we're perfect at this, but the point is we're doing it and that we have improved those skills over time. And in my mind, that is what makes it worthy to put on a resume, is that like, yeah, I have experience doing this. And, you know, of course, we all have different levels of experience doing this, but I guess I say that again to fight back against that sense of imposter syndrome that you might feel in writing this out. But I'd say the last skill that's on my list here is creative skills.
Come on, man.
Hey.
Come on.
You know what?
Everybody thinks they're creative.
The thing is, though...
We're actually creative.
Yeah.
we're actually creative, though.
The thing is, too, it also depends on, like, how you think about the word creative. Like, because for...
You're fudging the numbers here.
No, I am recognizing that words have a variety of meanings. Like, and we understand on one degree that, yes, of course, we have the creative level of, like, we make art, essentially, right? Like, but when you try and break that down into language that makes us like valuable employees, like, I mean, of course, like if you are going to say work for a like design team, right? Like you are going to work for a ceramic artist company or for a larger ceramic arts company and they need a ceramic designer. Yes, very clearly our ability to create specific designs is very appropriate in that job context. But the other ways that we exercise creative skills can be used in basically any other job, because essentially so much of what we do is we create rules and structure to lead to a desired outcome, but we essentially have to find and choose and build and place our own building blocks to get there. And that is creative because, again, like if you have like just a basic set of instructions and you follow those instructions and you get from point A to point B, cool, you have done the thing. That is also an important skill because it shows you can follow directions. It shows you can, have attention to detail, all that jazz. But let's say you need to get from A to B, but you don't even realize that B is where you want to go yet. And then over time you realize, okay, I want to get to B. And how do I get to B? Like, okay, like when I started out with ceramics, I was like, I want to do ceramic arts for a living. I started out, I knew what A was. I was kind of fuzzy on what B was. I knew it was kind of vaguely doing ceramic arts for a living, but I wasn't sure what that was specifically going to look like. And then all the different ways that I put my life together, like taking a part-time job that I only had to work like, between like 20 and 30 hours a week and eventually less so that I could spend more time growing my ceramics business, like that was a creative solution. Trying to figure or like learning how to make my own glazes so that I spent less on smaller containers of glaze and less time brushing on glazes. That's a creative solution. Like there's so many, it's okay. This is a little bit of a stretched metaphor, but I'm going to try and go for it this way. So if you were following instructions, you are given the staircase from point A to point B. As independent business owners, we have point A and point B, but not only do we have to build our own staircase, we have to source the lumber and the nails and realize that lumber and nails are even needed to build a staircase. And imagining as if we only have a vague idea of what a staircase is.
I get it and I agree with you. I just think the word creative, especially on a social setting, is too ambiguous in most people's minds. Like if I sat down 1,000 people and I said, "Are you creative?" almost assuredly all of them would say yes.
Sure, but this is business language.
Right, this is business language. So I think almost anyone could put that on a resume and it would be validated.
Sure, but then it comes on you then to be able to demonstrate
that you are creative.
That you are creative,
right.
Yeah.
I think that's the issue, is that like there are people out there who are not creative who would put that on a resume.
Sure, they might, and then they may struggle to
prove that
to demonstrate, yeah. But I mean, again, that part of the reason I put that on there is like, yes, these are on their face somewhat vague terms.
Yeah.
But the reason that I use them is because, again, the biggest thing I struggled with when I started this process of writing my resume after not having to write a resume in like 6 years was like, oh my God, I do so much. How do I concisely describe the very broad range of activities that I do in a concise way? and it necessitates using these somewhat vague words. But in my mind, the approach is you use the umbrella terms to give people a general idea of what you do, and then you detail it later on in not only in the resume, but in the interview, in the cover letter, in however else you go through the process of applying for the job.
I get that it's necessary. Although I will say, on the whole, I wish that the language was less broad in general. For resume speak in the first place. Like, I wish there was more direct, and you know me. Like, I wish there was more, like, direct honesty. But instead, you're right. This is, like, a broad blanket statement of things you might be able to do, well or not. And you're supposed to look good to a company, and then you can prove later on that you can do those things.
Yes.
But, like, I do have a large problem with people, like, using ambiguous words to make themselves be put in a positive light. And I feel like that, as a whole, and I'm not saying you made excellent points, but I do feel like a lot of people do this thing specifically, where they're like, I'm just trying to look good. So I'm going to use the language to look good? I don't look that good.
Sure. Yeah, I hear...
But it's necessary, and that's the thing that I think bugs me.
Yeah. And I hear that. I think it can be difficult to... I mean, again, I don't have specific... I mean, I think there was, one time where I assisted in hiring somebody because my boss was busy, and she was basically like, it was when I worked at the olive oil and balsamic tasting room, and we were like a super small staff, so she was like, hey, I'm thinking about hiring some new people, sit down with them for like 5 minutes and get a sense of them. Like, so that's the only experience I have in interviewing and like being on the other end of the job application process. Yeah. But the difficulty is, like, yes, there I'm sure there are people who do that, who, but
I think most people do that.
Yeah.
To be honest with you.
But again,
I'm just saying, like,
no. I mean,
I think that's
hear
the game.
Yeah, it is. It is somewhat the game, because it is. Yeah. It's business English. It's
crazy.
But you gotta find a way to communicate.
It's crazy
honestly. But in a way that also, again, because keywords are a whole other thing. Like, I haven't even talked about the fact that, like, AI technology is used to scan, or, like, other technologies are used to scan resumes to pick out keywords. Yeah. So that's, like, the other thing that's part of the resume building process is, like, looking at the job description and making sure that, like, the keywords, like, organization, creativity, making sure that those keywords that are in the job description are also in your resume. Like, that's a whole ass other part of the process too. But I hear what you're saying is, like, your style of communication.
It feels dishonest.
Yeah.
It's not even like it's my style of communication. It's like, you and I both know that we've...
it is your style of communication, but go ahead. Okay. Tell me.
You and I both know that we've pretty much based an entire language and cornerstone of speaking business talk on a piece of paper that is slightly dishonest.
I disagree with the premise that it's slightly dishonest. I think it feels dishonest to you.
It feels dishonest to me.
Because that's not the language that you feel most comfortable communicating.
I'll take that. Yeah, I'll take that. Because, like, I really wish... Like, I've been in too many interviews where people are like, yeah, I can do that. And then I get them in the kitchen, I hire them already, and they're just like,
they're just like, nah.
And it's not even like some people. It's like 80% of my hirees were just like, on paper, I can do this thing. And then I'm like, do the thing you said you can do. And they're like, nah. And I'm like, yeah, in such a competitive job market, I don't really blame you for lying on paper. But, like, I get that you weren't lying 100%. Is my experience.
Okay, yeah.
Like,
and I can...
But because it wasn't 100%, you could put it on paper.
Yes, I hear what you're saying, and if that's
the last naysay thing I'll say.
No, I mean, honestly, like, that makes a lot of sense. Like, if you've gone through that experience multiple times of, like, people saying they can do a thing, and then, like, you can't, and then finding out that they can't do the thing that they said they could do, that would be super frustrating. That'd be super frustrating.
And it's not even like one or two people. It was like a lot of people.
Yeah.
And then they play on their phone all day.
Oh my gosh, that'd be super frustrating.
It's the amount of people who. And this is a whole nother thing, but, like, the amount of people who I worked with who essentially claimed they had, like, a neurological or something disorder, and so they had to stimulate somehow every hour of the day while not getting work done was insane, because I'm like, what do I do I don't know what to do with you. Like, they're like, I have ADHD, so I have to. And I'm like, well, I'm not gonna downplay your, like, disorder, but at the same time, like, I gotta give you tools to cope, and you gotta agree to them. Or, like, you got to get work done somehow, or you got to take meds, or we give you health. Like, you got to do something. You can't just be like, throw your hands up and be like, let me play on my phone. because I have a problem. Like, we have to try.
Yeah, I think that's why, like...
And then you get rid of them.
I think that's why, like, business places are, like, how do I say? Awareness of and creating spaces so that folks with disabilities or other, like, conditions can comfortably and safely, like, work in that environment.
Yeah.
Because it's like, however, it was probably not that long ago that, like, the idea of having a nursing room in a business office would be, like, inconceivable. But it's like, yeah, just because you're a nursing mom, like, or a nursing parent, like, doesn't mean that you shouldn't have...
Put it in the bathroom. So, or, like, a separate room to the bathroom.
Yeah, but
like
so many people... There's such a history of businesses saying, that's inconvenient.
It's not... You know, and it's weird to me. That's weird.
Yeah.
It's weird because, like, we have to do it no matter... It would be like, it's logically you have to nurse if you have a small child with you. Why would I, as a company owner, not make the environment comfortable for you? And it's not like it costs extra, like, too much money. Once I buy a couch and have a little extra side room for you, that's it. That's the most of the cost. And then my janitor cleans it every once in a while. Like, it's not like it costs billions of extra dollars.
Yeah.
You nursing, and especially because people complain about it in public, why don't I just give you a private room to do it in? Mm-hmm. Like, I would be seen as the greatest person if I just gave women a safe space, people who feed babies with the breast, a safe space to nurse or feed their children or change their, like, it doesn't make sense to me because you have to do it anyway. You know what? It's not like if you don't provide a space for me, I'm not gonna do it. It's stupid.
Yep.
And then I gotta hide my kid in shame in public, and then I get some a Karen with a lowercase t made of gold in her neck to, like, judge me. Like, this, it makes me so angry.
I know.
It would be like if they were like, yeah, we can't build bathrooms because they're too inconvenient. I'm gonna anyway. You might as well give me the ability to do it in a safe space. Oh my God. Because no matter what you say, it's happening.
I know. Well,
it's so angry.
Those things have been used throughout history to keep different people out of the workplace to some degree or another. So I think with things like, with folks who are neurodivergent, it's like that's something we are still learning how to accommodate and how to, like, create a supportive work environment for. And I know that, like, I mean, Lord knows,
so
I'm not an expert on this by any means, but like, it is an important aspect. But anyway,
I like the language on the whole. I will say though, like, I think a lot of my experience, along with my communication style, to your credit, is like the opposite of business language. Yeah. The amount of times I've sat in an interview while the guy across the counter, like, while my boss is asking him questions about his interpersonal relationships and how he does under a stressful environment, and I'm just looking at his hands, right? Because I'm like, how cut up are his hands? You know what I mean? Like, is one of his arms burned a little bit more than the other one? You know what I mean? Is his left side a little bit more red than his right side? Yeah. Because he said he works on a stove, he works on a grill. You know what I mean? Like, is he on the right side of the grill or the left side of the grill? Mm-hmm. You know, can he spot mold? You know, can he smell whether food's off or not? Yeah. You know, like, I pay attention to those things. She just cares about business talk. Right. And the amount of times I've been like, hire him. And she's like, why? And I'm like, his hands are cut up. He has a tattoo of his wife on his left arm. He's probably right-handed, right? Because he doesn't want to put the tattoo on the spot in which he's flipping burning eggs near it. Like, you know what I mean? Like, like, these make sense. Yeah. You know, he has short hair because he probably worked on a grill. He can't catch it on fire. He's not having long hair. It's not going to get in the food. You know, he has well-kept fingernails, right? Like, these things I pay attention to. Yeah. And regardless of whether this guy is like, I can work in a place setting where I communicate with my... like, I don't pay attention to any of that. That doesn't really tell me how you work in an environment. I don't really pay attention to what you say. I pay attention to the keynotes of some of the signs that actually tell me how you would do in the environment and your actions. Yeah. Because people can bullshit their way into a job. People can bullshit their way into a job. Yes. 100%.
Yeah. No, I think that's a really, really good point. And I think...
It's not the whole point, though.
No. I mean, like,
I think the rest.
I think what you're saying, like, to me, the points that you're bringing up show how, depending on how either the company or the organization or whoever it is that's doing the hiring, there are many different ways to hire.
So many.
And
at least two.
And at least two. At least two. Yeah. And honestly, like, I agree with you. I think there is a traditional focus on resumes and the, you know, spoken aspects, but I think those other things that you're talking about are also very important. And, like, I'm not arguing for one method being like better than the other. I'm more so like, again, for this episode, just saying like, hey, if you do need to use business English to write a resume, here's how you can use your experience in ceramics to add more to your resume if you need to. You know, I mean, again, your resume may be fine without any ceramic stuff, but if you are looking for
points, to be honest.
Oh, thanks, man.
You make great points.
I try. You did too.
I'm a little bit baptized. I'm gonna be honest with you.
The cleric of taxes.
The tax cleric.
The tax cleric is
only speaks in business language.
Yeah.
Like, but you're right. Like, you're right about a lot of these things. I think on like, if I were to use this language on like a spiritual level, it doesn't feel right. You know, it feels like I'm kind of lying in order to get my foot in the door.
Oh my gosh.
But I also realize that that's like a good portion of the business world is like making the turd seem shinier than it is, so you can sell them some. No?
Well, I think that is reflective of your experience.
I just don't trust companies. I'm sorry, I just don't trust companies.
Dear listeners, tell us what you think. Are you if you were to be hired, or if you were doing the hiring, I don't know. Tell us what you think about the different ways that you can hire folks, business language. Tell us what you think.
It's a competitive market, and the meta at the moment is getting words on a piece of paper that make you seem more better.
I love the idea of thinking about job applications as like a game. And so you can figure out what's the meta so I can win this game.
Yeah, what's the keyword meta?
What's the keyword meta?
So that I look better on an application.
You know what? If you gotta gamify your life to make this stuff easier, go for it, bro.
Yep.
Little shout out, by the way, to Habitica.
We're using Habitica. We're on a team.
We are on a team.
I'm doing such low damage because I'm level like 8.
Oh my gosh. All right. Well, we'll have to explain this a little more in a Night Peddlers episode. I think we talked about it also in the
What if Habitica
goals.
sponsored us?
Oh my god, I would love that.
I would love that too.
I should reach out to Habitica and ask them if they'd be up for a sponsorship. Because like low-key, I've been using them for years. We talked about them, I think, on a Night Peddlers episode and on an episode on what's it called? Oh, on our episode talking about short, medium, and long-term goals. But yeah, it's essentially a gamify your app or gamify your life app.
Yeah,
and it's a lot of fun.
Should we explain what it actually? No,
another episode. But for now, we should do a Kiln plug.
I'm so sorry if you are sensitive to any type of stimulus because I just burned you out.
Yeah, it's okay. I'll like decrease the volume on the.
Damn son, damn son.
Another one. Oh my god. Anyway, these are like 10-year-old memes by now.
We're 10-year-old memes.
Oh my god. It hurts. Anyway, all right, Kiln plugs. What you got?
Okay, so my last store upload only had like 20 pots on it. So since then, I've decreased a little bit of the prices, and I also opened a seconds shop.
What?
I opened a second shop.
A second shop? On the same website or
no,
what?
No, a shop for seconds, not a second shop.
Oh, I got you. I got you.
So I put the pots in there that, honestly, nothing's wrong with them. I just don't like them that much, to be real with you. Mm-hmm. But because I don't like them that much, I just discounted them. Mm-hmm. So, like, there's a teacup up there for, like, 30-something bucks. And
my God.
That I'm just like, you know what? I'm probably only gonna get, like, $25 out of it. But I need it out. I want it out.
Yeah.
And if you like it, you like it. I don't like it. It's whatever, right?
Yeah.
That being said, now I've started to filter out my actual, like, the first shop, pottery shop, into stuff that I think is good.
Oh, okay.
Stuff that I really like. Before they were all kind of mixed in.
Yeah.
On top of that, I did just release a blog, maybe a week ago, on me developing a couple of new reds. For my patrons, for Earth Nation Ceramics, I will probably give you the recipe to all 3 of those glazes that I just developed pretty soon for a certain tier of you. If you're on my Patreon, it'll probably be really obvious which you was getting it and which one you was not getting it. I give them the stole chart, I give them the chemistry, I give them the pictures, I give them everything. Other than that, I think my next table is along with you at SAC Anime. Mm-hmm. Right, yep. SAC Anime Summer?
Summer, yeah. Summer. SAC Anime Summer, that'll be in September. To be honest, I don't really actually have a lot of stuff to plug. Like, I've still got some stuff up on my shop. I will be updating my little sticker collection here probably pretty soon because I've got about, essentially what I do for my Patreon, in case like y'all don't know, is I basically every month I will send out for my members of the House of Flame, I send out like a newsletter, like an in the mail newsletter. Oh. And a lot of the times it'll have either a sticker that I've designed, or sometimes I'll do like individual mini hand painted things. Like I've done like little watercolor drawings, I've done handmade bookmarks. So I kind of have some fun with it, but Point being, the last, I don't make the stickers that I send out to patrons available until like 6 months or so after I done, because I want to give the patrons the fun things first. So I've got a few sticker designs that I'll be putting up onto my website pretty soon. It shouldn't take too long to do that. So hopefully by the time this episode comes out, I will have uploaded that. And other than that, I think we're good.
Yeah. All right, let's call it. I'm sorry I was such a naysayer this episode.
No, it's good.
But,
it was a lively debate. Exercising good interpersonal communication skills.
Damn it.
Yay.
No. That's, you know what I mean? Like, I exercise good interpersonal communication skills.
Is that your way of saying you like to argue, Samantha? Is that what that is?
Oh, my Lord.
And you just put it on the paper real fancy like?
Oh. And that's it for today. Thank you so much for joining us for this episode of The Mud Peddlers. We would love to hear from you, so if you want to share your thoughts about the episodes or just see what Donte and I are working on in our studios, come say hi. You can find links to my social media at lindseymdillon.com. That's LINDSEY, M as in monster, DILLON.com.
And you can visit my pottery shop or see what I'm working on at earthnationceramics.com. And you can find me all over social media at Earth Nation Ceramics. It's spelled exactly how you think it's spelled.
And if you want to support the show, hear some bonus episodes, and see some behind the scenes of my work, you can support me and the show at patreon.com/Lindsey M Dillon. Thank you so much for listening, and we will see you next time.